The village of Kíta lay quiet beneath the golden hues of an evening sun. Shadows stretched long across the dusty compound where women pounded yam rhythmically, their mortar and pestle echoing like a heartbeat. Children laughed and chased one another near the fire, their carefree spirits a stark contrast to the storm brewing within Agna. Under the shade of the ancient baobab tree, Agna sat cross-legged, braiding her sister Mira's hair. Her hands moved deftly, but her mind was elsewhere. Mira noticed the tension in her sister's usually serene demeanor. "I've had enough, Mira," Agna said suddenly, her voice laced with bitterness. She tied off the braid with a sharp tug and leaned back, her expression resolute. "No man will deceive me again. This heart, my heart, belongs to no one but me. I'll find solace in the whispers of the wind and wisdom in the arms of the gods." Mira raised an eyebrow, tilting her head with a sly smile. "You speak as though the gods owe you an explanation for your pain. But, Agna, don't you see? Love doesn't come by force or will. It chooses us, whether we are ready or not." "Then let it choose someone else," Agna snapped, her voice cutting like a blade. Rising abruptly, she dusted off her skirt and turned toward the small mud brick home they shared. She packed her bag. "I'm leaving, Mira. I'll go where no man knows my name. Let fate try to follow me if it dares." Mira watched her sister walk away, her heart heavy with worry. "The gods are watching you, Agna," she whispered to herself, her voice barely audible over the evening breeze. "You might find yourself in their hands sooner than you think." The journey from Kíta led Agna to Sikasso, a bustling city alive with colors, scents, and the hum of life. The city's marketplace was a cacophony of merchants hawking spices, fabric, and trinkets. But Agna found herself drawn to a quieter corner of the city, a modest inn where travelers sought rest and stories were shared like currency. In the courtyard, lit by swaying lanterns, Agna sat at a worn wooden table. Before her, a diviner had scattered cowrie shells in a chaotic pattern, their meaning elusive to her untrained eyes. She stared at them, her mind turning over thoughts as if seeking answers she didn't know how to ask for. "You've been staring at those shells for hours," came a deep, smooth voice from the shadows. Startled, Agna looked up. A man stepped into the light of the lanterns, his sharp features illuminated. His dark eyes held a curiosity that was both unsettling and intriguing. "Are you seeking answers?" he asked, with a slight smile, "or hiding from them?" Agna straightened, her composure returning. "Perhaps both. And you, stranger, what do you seek?" He pulled out a chair across from her, his movements unhurried, as if he had all the time in the world. "Wisdom," he said simply, leaning forward, "and maybe a companion to share it with." Her lips curved into a faint, skeptical smile. "Words are cheap. What wisdom do you have to offer?" Their conversation began cautiously, but soon flowed effortlessly. They shared stories of their travels, their dreams, and the wounds that had led them both to Sikasso. The diviner, seated nearby, watched them with a cryptic smile. Under her breath, she murmured, "Two threads of destiny entwined tonight. But where there is light, shadows always follow." Days later, the city erupted in celebration for the Oran Mian festival. The streets of Sikasso were a riot of color and sound. Masked dancers spun wildly around roaring fires, their movements hypnotic, while the air thrummed with the rhythm of drums and chants that reached the heavens. Agna and Chukuma wandered through the crowd, their hands brushing but not quite touching. The magic of the festival was intoxicating. And for the first time in years, Agna felt her heart begin to thaw. They say she speaks directly to the gods, Chukuma said, pointing to a priestess draped in white robes, her face obscured by a veil. Shall we ask her what the gods see for us? Agna hesitated, unease flickering in her chest. Some answers are better left unspoken, she said, pulling back. But Chukuma, emboldened by curiosity, led her to the priestess. The woman turned to them, her eyes piercing through her veil as though she could see straight into their souls. Her voice, low and melodic, began to chant in an ancient tongue. Two hearts bound by love, she intoned finally, her gaze never wavering. But beware, a third shadow watches from afar, cloaked in envy. Blood shall flow before the gods are satisfied. Agna's chest tightened, her unease blooming into dread. Chukuma, however, laughed nervously, brushing it off. What's love without a little danger? He said, trying to lighten the moment. But the priestess's words lingered in Agna's mind, a dark cloud she couldn't shake. Weeks later, Agna returned to Kíta with a mixture of excitement and fear, eager for Chukuma's arrival, but haunted by the priestess's warning. She sat by her window one evening, penning a letter to him, when a sharp knock at the door startled her. She opened it to find Aliou standing there. His wealthy appearance couldn't mask the cruelty in his eyes or the smug grin on his face. You've returned, he said, stepping inside without invitation. Surely the gods have answered my prayers. Agna's spine stiffened. The gods have nothing to do with this, she said coldly. My heart belongs to Chukuma. Aliou's grin twisted into a sneer. Do you think your Chukuma can protect you? The gods favor strength, not love. I'll prove it to you. He stormed out, leaving a chill in his wake. From the shadows, a priest of Esu, the trickster god, watched with a sinister smile, his hands weaving an invisible web of mischief. The following morning, as the first rays of dawn broke over the horizon, the village crier took his position at the heart of the village. With a solemn expression, he rang the bell, its deep sound echoing through the quiet streets. The clang of the bell stirred the villagers from their slumber, and one by one they began to gather, drawn by the familiar call. It was a summons to the village square, a place where matters of importance were discussed, where fates were shaped. The air was thick with anticipation as the people, curious and concerned, moved toward the square to see what news awaited them. The village square was a sea of faces as Aliou announced his intent to claim Agna as his bride. She stood defiant, refusing to be cowed, but the whispers of the crowd filled her with dread. The village square was thick with tension, the air heavy with whispers and curious glances. Then, like a sudden gust of wind, Chukuma appeared at the edge of the crowd, his presence instantly commanding attention. The murmurs died down, and all eyes turned to him. Without hesitation, Agna broke free from the crowd, her heart racing, and rushed to him. She threw her arms around him, holding him tightly as though she feared he might vanish into the wind. Chukuma's arms enveloped her, and for a moment, the rest of the world faded away. It was as if the very earth had shifted beneath their feet, bringing them back together. The village elder, who had been observing from the center of the gathering, stepped forward, his gaze sharp and full of curiosity. His voice broke the silence that followed Chukuma's arrival. "Who is this man?" the elder asked, his tone both questioning and expectant. Agna pulled back slightly, her eyes meeting Chukuma's, her heart swelling with a mixture of defiance and pride. She turned to the elder, her voice steady but filled with an undeniable passion. "This is Chukuma," she said, her words clear and unwavering. "The man my heart belongs to." Chukuma, sensing the weight of the moment, stepped forward with unshaken confidence. His gaze swept over the villagers, and in that instant, the air seemed to thrum with power. With a bold declaration, he raised his voice for all to hear. "Agna is mine," Chukuma said, his words firm and sure. "If you wish to claim her, you'll have to face me before the gods." The crowd went silent, the tension palpable. The elders' eyes narrowed, but the challenge had been laid, and the fate of Agna and Chukuma was now in the hands of the gods. The village elder stepped forward, his staff raised. "So be it. At dawn, the gods will judge in the sacred grove." Mist clung to the sacred grove as torches cast flickering light across the gathered villagers. Aliou and Chukuma stood opposite each other, ceremonial staffs in hand. The priestess of Ogun raised her arms, her chant summoning the attention of the gods. The duel began, fierce and relentless. Chukuma's skill and determination shone, but Aliou's brute strength gave him an edge. As Chukuma gained the upper hand, Aliou, in a moment of cowardice, pulled a hidden blade and struck him down. "Chukuma!" Agna screamed, rushing to his side. The priestess stepped forward, her face dark with fury. "You have dishonored the gods," she declared. "For your treachery, Esu shall claim your soul." Aliou's scream echoed as dark mist enveloped him, pulling him into nothingness. The priestess turned to Agna, who cradled Chukuma's fading body. "There is one way to save him," she said, "but it will cost you everything." "I'll do it," Agna said without hesitation. Golden light filled the grove as the priestess performed the ritual. Agna felt a life force draining, flowing into Chukuma, reviving him. "You will leave," the priestess said softly, "but your spirit is now bound to this land. You can never leave." Years later, Agna sat beneath the Iroko tree, her hair streaked with gray but her spirit undimmed. Children gathered around her, hanging on her every word as she recounted her tale. "The gods taught me that love is both a blessing and a trial," she said, her voice filled with quiet strength. "It demands sacrifice, but its light never fades." As she spoke, golden fireflies danced in the distance, a testament to a love that endured even the whims of the gods.